before I start this segment off, let me just say I want to give all shout out and credit to the man who did a story on this and actually brought this to my attention. His name is Terrain Walker. Terrain Walker is one of the best people to follow on Twitter or on Substack if you have any concerns about Black American culture and society and the biggest issues affecting Black society and Black culture. Terrain Walker is great at that. I didn't even notice this until he brought it up. But how many of you guys know that 500,000 Black men, 500,000 Black men have lost their jobs in the last 6 months? Yes. Over the last 6 months, 500,000 Black men have lost jobs since late 2025. Again, shout out to Terrain Walker for doing a lot of research on this. According to new data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, employment numbers for Black men took a steep dive between the end of 2025 and the beginning of 2026. In November 2025, 9,969,000 Black men were employed. By February of 2026, that number had dropped to 9.402 million. So that's about 567,000 jobs in less than half a year. This parallels a widely publicized MSNBC article from 2025 that highlights the data showing that 300,000 Black women had lost their jobs that year. I actually covered that story as well when it happened, because I think it's a huge deal, you know, whenever you see huge amounts of job loss in the Black community. And so now you add those two numbers together, you have 500,000, almost 570,000 Black men and 300,000 Black women losing jobs in the last few years. That sounds like an economic crisis to me. I don't know about you. That sounds like a crisis. Put together, that's 868,000 unemployed Black men and women in the United States as of March 26th. According to the Census Bureau data, Black men are mostly employed in management roles, the service industry, sales, construction, and transportation. COVID, economic downturns, and the advent of automation and AI in those fields are the main reasons for massive job loss that adds up to $87 billion in lost income.
Money, money, money.
Yes, that is money we do not have. Money that could be used to support Black families and pump money back into the economy. I've been telling you guys for months now what AI, or at least I guess probably a few years now, what AI was really about. A lot of people just think, and by the narrative that is fed to them by the billionaire-owned media, that AI is about making our lives more efficient. That is not the case. AI's main objectives in this country, the main reason that our overlords, our corporate overlords, are switching over to AI is to render humans irrelevant in as many fields as they possibly can, and to create a mass surveillance state so that they can make sure that there's nothing we can do about it. As they get richer and more powerful, they will be able to insulate themselves and isolate themselves more for us when we come with the pitchforks and torches. That is why NIPSCO is not afraid to do what they're doing. That is why BP is not afraid of doing what they're doing. That is why all these corporate entities are not afraid of doing what they're doing, because they are instituting AI that is the biggest, greatest surveillance technology there has ever been. They're using it right now in Gaza against the Palestinians. They're using it in Iran as we speak. I told you guys a few years ago when the Gaza war started, they are literally using AI to more efficiently and systemically kill Palestinian people. They were testing that data so that they can do it to us. That is and has been the main objective in implementing AI technologies for all of us. It is not so we can watch cat videos on Facebook and YouTube. It is not so we can use social media. We had social media 20 years ago. I have to remind you guys this. Magically, there weren't data centers popping up in every neighborhood in America 20 years ago. We were using social media 10 years ago, 5 years ago. How many data centers were popping up in every neighborhood in America? They just weren't doing that. They need an extremely large amount of AI in a very short period of time to implement this surveillance state, because they know the pitchforks are coming and they know the torches are coming. They know that we are going to hate them and want to kill them. And for good reason. I played you the clip last week of Larry Ellison saying, who's the second richest man in the world, and a guy that Donald Trump just gave $500 billion to for Project Stargate. He said, look, everybody will be on their best behavior because the public will always be watched. And the police, there won't be any more police brutality because the police will always be watched. And that's how they're selling it. Oh, yeah, you guys hate police brutality. Well, we're going to make sure they're always under surveillance. And so are you. You're going to always be under surveillance. There won't be any crime, everybody. You'll be safe. We'll always be monitoring you. I just did the story a few weeks ago about how they have people in Africa who can look through the data when you're wearing your Google glasses, your AI Google glasses, and they can see you when you're naked. They can see you having sex. They can see you on the toilet. That is what they need these data centers for. And once again, black people are the canary in the coal mine. 878,000 black people. 868,000 black people have lost their jobs in the last year. They're coming for everybody else. Just like when they started in the late 60s, sending all the jobs in the factories in inner cities all over America, in even places like Gary, you started seeing white flight and deindustrialization and urban decay and urban sprawl. That started in our communities. Then it ended up in the white communities, and now all the white people are depressed and suffering from deaths of despair, and they are on opiates, and because all the factories left. The factories started leaving us in the 60s. We're always the canary in the coal mine. AI has come for us, and it is coming for us in the near future. We are in a place where these jobs are not going to come back at all. They're replacing us in construction. They're replacing us in the service industries. You saw Melania Trump come out with the robot. They're about to have robot teachers. They're getting rid of teachers. They told all y'all to go to college so that you would be safe from stuff like this. Oh, go into thousands and thousands of dollars of college debt, which has risen 900% since 1983. I just did that story last week. You paid all that money to go to college so that you can be replaced by a robot anyway. And so what we're going to see is the black community, particularly black men, rendered even more economically impotent than we have been in the past. That was a big part of the heroin and crack epidemics in the 70s and 80s. They sent the jobs overseas, they put the drugs in, and then the government started putting everybody in jail for touching the drugs that they helped put in here. Because the men didn't have jobs, not decent ones. They'd started already on those. And so, unfortunately, what you will see is even more black people joining the hustler economy. More people working jobs under the table. We already have a situation where a large percentage of American females under 30 are on OnlyFans. selling their bodies. Selling their bodies on OnlyFans. You would be shocked. It's millions and millions. There are tens of millions of American women. There are millions of American women on OnlyFans, under the age of 30, many of them. And you're going to get a whole bunch of dudes who are risking their lives to sell drugs, to steal, to rob people. You're going to see a big, we talked about a lot how crime has, over the last 30 years, plummeted since the 90s. Well, in a world where AI completely replaces all workers, there aren't jobs for working class people, and you can be basically replaced at any given time. We might be about to see the type of violent crimes that we saw back when Gary was the murder capital of America. And in the 90s, when we were in the crack era, where you had places that had higher murder rates than Guatemala and Honduras and Mexico and South Africa in the United States. You could be about to see that again. And so it is important, if you listen to this, get your affairs in order. I would make any crazy purchases. Be prepared to save. Be prepared to look out for yourself and your family and your community. Because as we talked about in the first segment, these folks they are getting ready to squeeze every single thin red cent out of us. That's why food costs so much. That's why gas costs so much. That's why everything costs so much. They're seeing how much that we can take before we finally go at them. And they prepared to have this surveillance state to make sure that we can't do anything too much to them. And you got to keep that in mind. You really have to keep that in mind. All right, folks, when we get back, we're going to get into the United Nations and its declaration that slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, was humanity's greatest crime in history. Guess how the United States voted on said resolution? I bet you can't figure it out. We'll be right back after these here on Straight Outta the Cannon with me, Scott Cannon. Please stay with us.